What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the Premier League SPUR-SPECTIVE, which is the review show from Predict the Prem, where me and my brother go head to head in predicting Premier League outcomes. We have scores as well, which is 5 points for a correct scoreline or 1 point for a correct result, and the star man as well. Once you pick them, you can't pick them again for the remainder of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. And look at this, a lovely setting we've got around us today here in Milan, obviously for the big Champions League game tonight. But we've got some football to get through from the weekend, and let's start off with West Ham against Chelsea. I went 0-0, you went 1-1. It did finish 1-1, so a big 5-pointer for you to kick off the week. What did you think of the game?
Another Mudryk no-show. Well, didn't he get taken off after an hour? But João Felix, obviously his first game back since his ban, I believe. And brilliant opening goal. I thought he was pretty electric throughout. Enzo Fernandez as well. I've been really impressed with him in the first couple of games. That he's really settled into the Premier League really well. I thought he was in the first game. I think was it Fulham? I thought he was. He showed his off-the-ball quality, and I think against West Ham he showed his on-the-ball quality with a brilliant assist for João Felix. West Ham obviously did equalise, and I thought it was from then on. I don't think Chelsea deserved the victory in the end. I thought it was a probably hard-fought draw for West Ham, and it keeps Chelsea's indifferent form continuing. So I think they'll be encouraged by that they're not conceding as many goals now, Chelsea. Their defence is pretty solid, but and you've got to think with the attacking talent they have, it's going to click at some point. But right now, they're just struggling to find they're finding to kind of kill off teams at the moment.
Yeah, I think it might be a little too late this season for Chelsea, maybe even for a top 4 race, but you never know. In the latter stages, if it does click and they go on a good run, you do never know it with these kind of things. But in terms of Chelsea, their fans really not happy at the moment, booing the team off the pitch, booing players like Mason Mount off the pitch. What do you make out of that?
I think that they're impatient because they know Chelsea, what usually the pattern is for Chelsea over the last few years, well, ever since probably Roman has come in, is that if their manager's faltering, a new manager comes in and pretty much it improves immediately, and then they go on a run. With Potter, it hasn't happened that, and probably, in fact, you can probably say it's the opposite. They probably got a bit worse since Tuchel has left, and it's going to take time. And I think I think if you appoint a manager like Potter, you need patience. And I know Chelsea notoriously don't have that, but under this new ownership, maybe that could change.
Yeah, fair enough. But let's move on. Let's go to the Arsenal game. Arsenal against Brentford. It did finish 1-1. I went 2-1 to Arsenal. Sim went 2-1 to Arsenal. And we spoke last week about cracks starting to show in the Arsenal armoury, and there was more evidence of that this weekend, wasn't there?
I think so. I mean, obviously Brentford in great form, so you can't take that away from them. They played brilliantly throughout the game. They were well worth the point, if not probably unlucky not to win. We'll get into their goal in a second, but I thought that if anyone was going to score the first, I think Arsenal will open the scoring against the run of play from what I saw. Trossard obviously came on within a couple of minutes. He puts Arsenal 1-0 up, but it was really harsh on Brentford at the time. And then, let's be honest, they got a massive slice of luck with their goal. Should have been ruled offside. Massive cock up by VAR, and they end up scraping.
How many of them were there this weekend? Bloody hell!
Yeah, and they had to issue an apology, the PGMOL. So it goes to show, it was human error, and it goes to show how bad it was this weekend. It was, for some reason, there was just something in the air this weekend where it was like cock up after cock up. But look, Brentford are well worth the point. Ivan Toney was brilliant. He obviously got the equaliser, but he was really unlucky not to score before that. He had a few chances, and Brentford. I don't know, they just don't. They at the moment, it doesn't matter who they play. City away, they get a win. Arsenal away, they get a draw. At home, they battered. Who was it? Liverpool. And didn't they beat Chelsea? They beat Chelsea. I can't remember now. But they're just like, it doesn't matter who they play at the moment. They're turning up and getting great results and great performances. So you've got to give massive credit to Thomas Frank and everyone at Brentford at the moment, because they're in one of the form teams in the league right now.
Last team to beat Brentford was Spurs. How mad is that? How mad is that?
When did we beat Brentford?
Yeah,
what, at home? Can't remember now. We were the last. That's really. Were we?
Wait, I might have got that stat wrong, to be honest. I might have got that stat wrong.
We drew with them at that ground. I can't remember beating.
No, you're right. You're right. We weren't the last team to beat. Or maybe we were. I don't know. Check the stats. I don't have it in front of me, but they haven't lost in a long time, is my point. But in terms of Arsenal, I'm hearing the fans with a lot of complaints about players like Ben White, Martinelli on the left, and what's going on though? They really are. Maybe they're showing their age a bit, inexperience.
I don't know about inexperience. I just think maybe they're relying on a core set of young players, and it was working for them when everything was going well at the beginning of the season. But maybe when they start to buy into the hype a bit of the title challenge, and maybe all of a sudden it starts to get into the head that these results start to get to them. Whereas maybe at the beginning of the season, when things were going against them, they can kind of just shake off because they were kind of like just happy to be in that situation. But now the pressure's on; it's very different. And I think as well, like I remember Saka at the end of last season, Saka and Martinelli at the end of last season, they were absolutely brilliant. And then when the pressure came on it, that all of a sudden their legs were heavier. They weren't as effective. And maybe they're being heavily relied upon. And also maybe it's just maybe it is a bit mentality and experience.
And one other player for Arsenal, Saliba, after his brilliant start to the season, I thought Ivan Toney absolutely did a number on him on the weekend. 10 aerial duels they had, that Saliba had. He won 0 of them. What is going on with him?
Yeah, and I think he got a bit bullied as well last week at Everton. So maybe it's kind of teams are finding a way to get at him a bit because he seemed like unstoppable at the beginning of the season. But you got to remember he's still very young, 21. You're going to go through ups and downs. It's going to happen, and maybe that's what he's going through at the moment.
All right, let's move on to the M26 derby, Palace against Brighton. It finished 1-1. Sim predicted 1-1. I predicted 1-1. Probably the most obvious scoreline of the weekend, seeing as that game has been 1-1 for the past 4 times now.
But another VAR cock-up. This time, it was actually unbelievable when you think about this VAR, because the Arsenal one, they didn't draw the lines on Norgard, and he would have been offside if they did. But this one, they drew the lines on the wrong Palace player. But not only did they draw the lines on the wrong player, they actually drew the lines on the wrong part of the body as well. So like everything about the line drawing there was completely wrong. So I don't understand how you can be a professional VAR doing the checks, and then you don't get the right player or the right body part of that player. It's absolutely staggering, to be honest. Apparently, it wasn't even the second last player as well. He was the third last player. So there were 2 players, Palace players, ahead of I think it was Tompkins they ended up drawing the line on. There were 2 players ahead of him, which both would have kept Estepinian on. So absolutely diabolical from VAR. Absolutely shocking. And Brighton will be furious with that because that probably cost them all 3 points and they would have carried on what is their great form. They're still obviously unbeaten. I can't remember the last time. They're not losing many games at all, even if they're not winning. So they're carrying on their great form. Matoma as well still look brilliant. Palace probably a bit fortunate to get away with a point in this one, especially with the goal. As you see the goal they scored, there was a mad mistake by Sanchez as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've got to give credit to Brighton with the way they're playing, the results that they keep pulling out. If you're a Palace fan, would you be worried right now? 'Cause I've seen a lot of discontent at Patrick Vieira, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you're Palace, like you've never had it so good.
Yes and no. I mean, I guess from their point of view, last season they were great. They got their mid-table, and you thought, well, okay, we need to push on from this, especially with some of the attacking players. You would have thought they've got better, Eze or Leeds and people like that, and they're kind of just stagnating a bit. So that must be a bit frustrating. But I think from Palace's point of view, they're in a solid position. There's no need to panic.
Exactly. Let's move on to Fulham against Nottingham Forest, which finished 2-0 to Fulham. My turn to get the 5-pointer with I went 2-0, Sim went 1-0, so Sim gets a point, I get 5 points. And the Fulham train keeps rolling on, and Nottingham Forest away woes carry on.
Yeah, they've ended their unbeaten record, so that'll be disappointing for Forest. I didn't obviously see much of this game, but I saw the goal. William with an absolute brilliant goal from him. And I got to give him credit, because I thought when he left Arsenal, he was done at this level. But he's proving this season that he's been quality for Fulham, and he's really showed that he's still got a lot to give, a lot to offer at this level. So fair play to William. It was a great goal from him. And then Manor Solomon, and I'm so happy for him.
Big up to Manor.
Yeah, because he had a bad injury when they signed him for decent money, and then I think in his first game, or was it a pre-season game, he got a really bad injury, ruled him out for many months, and he's now just coming back from injury and got himself his first goal back on the scores. You saw how much it meant to him as well, that celebration after the goal, and hopefully he could give a boost to Fulham as well from an attacking point of view. So fair play to him. Forest, it'll be one of those games, it'll be one of those results you just dust off and move on. They're in good form. I think their home form is what they're going to be relying on to keep them up, and it'll be disappointing to end that unbeaten record they were on, but they're still in mid-table, so they're still in a strong position.
Moving on to Spurs against Leicester at the King Power on the weekend. Sim went 3-1. It's just a goal off. And I went 2-1, but unfortunately we both predicted Spurs wins when Leicester won 4-1 in a battering of Tottenham Hotspur at the King Power. I guess the only positive thing about this weekend is that everyone around us dropped points, pretty much, apart from Man United and Man City. But having said that, it's still a massive opportunity missed for us this weekend. And I thought we came out really good in the first 10-20 minutes, and then as soon as we scored, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, we completely switched off a number of times. The defence was all over the place. We started with so much energy, so much intensity. It's happened a few times over the season. We started strongly, even a few times, even though we started strongly without taking the lead. This time we did take the lead, and you thought that would give us confidence to keep up the standards, but we just couldn't keep up. I don't know whether it's physically or whether they took their eye off the ball, but we were a shambles once we won 1-0 up. Leicester equalised. It was pretty much one-way traffic from then on. They completely cut us open like a knife through butter. Spurs played pretty much the last hour of that game like it was the last 10 minutes and of the game, and they were completely lacked all composure. They didn't have any defensive solidity, and then to top it all off, Rodrigo Bentancur ruptures his ACL, which is absolutely devastating news. Now it's probably the worst bit of the whole game, having that injury, and that is going to have massive ramifications for us for the next end of the second part of the season.
Absolutely. We're going to need our midfielders to step up, Skip and Sarr and Højbjerg, especially Skip and Sarr in the Champions League tonight against Milan. But let's move on to Southampton against Wolves. It finished 2-1 to Wolves when they went down to 10 men really early in the game with a really weird sending off. Sim went for 1-0 to Wolves. I went for 2-0 to Wolves, so 1 point each there. What the hell was that sending off about? I mean, apparently the referee explained it, saying he was the third player to run up to him or something, so he double booked him. Like, what the hell was that about?
That was what the ref apparently said to Ruben Neves. Neves had an interview after the game saying, "What did you see about the sending off?" He just said he didn't say anything to the ref. He said me and João Moutinho ran over to the ref, and then Lamina as well ran over, and he decided because he was the third player to run over, he booked him, and because he was already on a booking, he sent him off. I thought it was an absolutely ridiculous red card, to be honest. Another refereeing cock up, in my opinion. I'm not sure why he decided to make an exception for that. Like, I think it's such a nonsense red card, and it could have cost Wolves dearly. They were 1-0 down at the time as well, and Southampton, to be fair, probably should have been more than a goal to the good before Wolves got back in the game. Also, Sulemana went for on goal, and Jose Sarr made a brilliant save, and that probably was a turning point. And then all of a sudden, the 10 men of Wolves just dug in. They picked their moments. And some more defensive mishaps from Southampton. Bednarek with a comical own goal, dribbling the ball into the back of his net, couldn't sort his feet out. And then the new signing, João Gomez, a young midfielder from Brazil, he looks like a real talent. And another, I think, again, it could be another pick out by Wolves, because he looks like a good find. They've got a brilliant selection of midfielders now, Moutinho, Neves, and now Gomez, Lamina as well, they signed. So fair play to Wolves, and a great win with 10 men. Absolutely fantastic for them, and that obviously cost Nathan Jones his job.
Yeah, I think with Nathan Jones as well, I mean, when we saw those quotes and those interviews that was coming out a week ago, you kind of knew the writing was on the wall, didn't you?
And then he said, what did he say after the game? He said he was asked, what about Wolves going down to 10 men? How did it cost you the game? He said, I actually think it was bad for us that Wolves went down to 10 men, because it gave them a nothing to lose attitude and a bit of pressure on our team, and we were 1-0 up at the time. So actually, I think it was to our detriment. And it's like, you can't have that kind of attitude when you're 1-0 up and the other team's down to 10 men. That has to be like, maybe in the worst case scenario, you don't score your chances and you maybe concede a late equaliser, but you can't lose. You can't lose when you're winning against them. I think if you look at the stats, I don't know off the top of my head, but if you look at the stats to teams who have lost when they're losing and they've gone down to 10 men, it must be like under when they're winning. When they're winning. Sorry, yeah. Teams who have lost when they're winning and then the other team go down to 10 men. It must be so minuscule the number of times that happens.
The only one that springs to mind is Spurs Man City.
Oh my God. Poor Nathan Jones. I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Yeah, maybe he'll go back to Luton now, make them the best team in Europe again.
Exactly. That's the proof's in the pudding for him.
Next up after the Wolves game is Bournemouth-Newcastle, which is 1-1. Newcastle just can't seem to get a win at the moment. Sim went 1-0 to Newcastle. I went 1-0 to Newcastle. But credit to Bournemouth here.
Yeah, I always felt in a small, like, kind of congested pitch like Bournemouth, they would struggle to really create chances. So once Bournemouth did equalise, did score when in the lead, I did worry for Newcastle. I thought they would struggle to turn that around, because they do heavily rely on that defence being really solid, then picking their moments going forward. At the moment, they're just really struggling to put their chances away. They're not really creating good quality chances at the moment, Newcastle. I think that's 5 draws out of the last 6 games for them. Even this game, Almiron's goal, I think it was from a rebound. It was that's his first goal in a while as well for Almiron. He hasn't really been on fire, but wherever he's back in the goals for him. Look, again, for where Newcastle expected to be this season, there's no need to panic, but I think when you look at them going for top 4, I guess Spurs, their defeat will probably stand them in good stead, but I think these draws are going to be very, very costly if they can't start turning them into wins. And they seem to be getting a bit worse, is my worry for Newcastle. It's like they've drawn a lot of games, but they're not, their performances aren't getting better. Their performances seem to be decreasing a bit and declining. So that would be a bit of a worry if I was a Newcastle fan. But then again, Eddie Howe does have options to maybe change it up, get Sam Maximan back in the team or something, and maybe can freshen things up. So all is not lost for Newcastle, but these draws are a bit concerning.
It's a strange one with Eddie Howe, isn't it? Because you normally associate Eddie Howe teams with free-flowing, attacking football, high-pressing game, and it just hasn't worked out he hasn't set them up like that, has he?
No, I think to be honest, I think a lot of it has been, a lot of their defensive record until recently has been kind of suffocating the opposition, not allowing them near their goal. I think that's been a lot of it, especially with their physical players. So I think that's been a large part of why their defensive record has been so good. But lately, they just haven't been able to turn those high turnovers into goals.
All right, next up, Leeds against Manchester United, finished 2-0 to Man U. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 3-1. And it definitely wasn't a 2-0 game in my opinion. I thought Leeds played really well. Once again, Leeds playing really well and not getting the points.
In fact, I actually think they played better in this game than they did at Man United at Old Trafford, and they ended up getting a point in that game where I thought they were lucky. This game I thought was the opposite. I thought they were really unlucky not to get all 3 points, let alone a loss. Man United obviously got the 2 late goals. It was very much an away day, kind of stick in there, ride the storm, and then pick your moments when you can and pick those moments of quality. And to be fair, Shaw's cross was a brilliant moment of quality and a great header by Rashford, who, by the way, somehow, I don't know what's going on with him, but he's scoring header after header right now. I don't know why they play Weghorst when Rashford is getting all the headers right now. So absolutely fantastic by him. He carries on his scoring form, and then obviously Garnacho sealed it late on when Leeds were pushing forward. But they created so many chances. They'll be kicking themselves. They couldn't turn any of them into goals because they were such a threat. Nonto was such a threat. What's his name? Harrison should probably, and also Somerville, I thought, had a number of opportunities which they didn't make the most of. De Gea was brilliant. I thought United defended pretty well, to be fair.
The makeshift defence as well, Maguire and Shaw, centre-backs.
It was a makeshift defence, but it was by his own choice because Varane and Sam Martinez were on the bench. So it's not like they were
saving for Barcelona this week.
But what I'm saying, it wasn't forced upon him. Like, he had them on the bench. So it was his choice, and they got a clean sheet. So fair play to him. It did take Shaw moving to left-back to find that moment of quality, to be fair. But fair play to Man United. They dug deep and got the points. But again, their performance wasn't really that impressive. But they say it's a sign of a good team when you're getting those kind of results.
Totally true. Next up, Manchester City and Aston Villa finished 3-1 to Man City. Sim went to 2-1. I went for 2-1 as well. And I felt like this was a game where kind of Man City were really back at it again.
Yeah, they looked sharp, 3-0 up at half-time. That was very much an answer to the critics after a very sluggish performance against Spurs a week ago. And then obviously it seemed a very emotional kind of game. There was when Mourinho scored, he put them 1-0 up against Aston Villa. I've never seen him celebrate so hard and be so animated. And I kind of felt like maybe those charges in a weird way will rally this team when everything it's kind of us against them, backs against the wall kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. And maybe the fact that the Premier League have brought these charges in a weird way might reinvigorate Man City in a way, because they're going to be fighting it tooth and nail to prove their innocence. And everyone's already said they're guilty. And maybe that's going to really galvanise everyone in the dressing room to rally around the team and win this title. I thought they were electric for the first half. They were right, probably fairly 3-0 up. Villa rarely threatened, in my opinion. They had a tactical set which didn't really work. Oh, there's a dog in the water. Don't mind us. Where was I? And then Haaland actually picked up an injury at half time. Hopefully he'll be back for the Arsenal game. We have to wait and see on Wednesday. But for all the talk of are Man City better without Haaland, they were much less effective in the second half once he went off, and they didn't. I thought they kind of coasted a bit in that second, or maybe being 3-0 up helped with that. But very good win for Man City, and they're back in it now in that title, maybe back on form.
It's exactly what we needed with Arsenal dropping points. Man City a strong performance, and hopefully going to win this title race now against Arsenal. But last but not least, the Merseyside derby last night finished 2-0 to Everton. I think we both went for 1-1 last night. Didn't get to see much of it, to be fair, but look, back to winning ways for Liverpool. And I don't know if you saw the assist for Trent Alexander-Arnold for the second goal. They didn't give it to him because it got on a deflection.
Yeah, I thought I was a bit. I mean, I have to watch it again, but it looked like a definite assist by Trent. But look, to be fair, what's it called, Everton, for the opening goal, they hit the post, I believe, from a corner, and then from the breakaway, Salah goes and scores. So that they'll feel that's a bit unfortunate on that kind of circumstance there. But from what I saw, Everton offered pretty much little threat. Liverpool, it was kind of like a comfortable victory for Liverpool, but it wasn't like they had to be brilliant to win it. So I don't think we learned too much from that win. From Sean Dyche's point of view, it wasn't a battering. They probably never. You don't really. I know they beat Arsenal. We don't really expect to go to Anfield in his second game and actually get a win or anything. So they'll be disappointed, but there'll be bigger fights to. There'll be other fights where they'll be in terms of where relegation is won and lost. So they'll just have to move on and dust off. It wasn't a great performance. Gakpo obviously getting off the account as well. That's
finally
for him. Yeah, a big moment for him. He needed that because he struggled since he's come to the Premier League. So maybe that could also be a big boost for him. But I don't think we learned too much from Liverpool. Like, I don't think, based on that performance anyway, they're going to go on a run. But they could always turn around because they have the players. But I wouldn't say that performance was that convincing from what I saw.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that we'll learn a bit more about Liverpool over the coming weeks when they've got some tough fixtures and see if they can turn it around. But that is the end of the Premier League's perspective. 14 points each for us this week, so level playing going into the next week. There is one prediction that we need to make for tomorrow, for Wednesday night, which is Arsenal against Man City, top versus second. And what are you going for?
I'm going for 2-2. 2-2? Did I say 2-2?
You said 1-1.
1-1. 1-1. I'll go for 1-1. It all depends. Obviously, big depends if Haaland is fit or not. I think Arsenal will want a big reaction to the recent form, but will it be enough to get all 3 points at home to Man City, especially a galvanised Man City? I'm not 100% sure. But if Haaland is injured, we'll have that cutting edge going forward to really take Arsenal to the sword. I'm also a bit doubtful of that. So apparently, though, he is expected to be fit, I read today. So it looks like he might play. But if he isn't going to play, based on my prediction, he isn't. So I'll go for 1-1. But if he is going to play, that could be the difference.
I agree, but that's why I was a bit thrown when you said 2-2, because that's my prediction. I'm going for 2-2 in this game. I think regardless of Haaland plays, I think, look, it's going to be a ding-dong battle there at the Emirates, and I think Arsenal going into it with their tails a bit between their legs a bit at the moment with their last 2 performances. Man City really galvanised themselves with that win last time out against Aston Villa, especially that first half performance. But I do think Arsenal are going to raise their game and get a bit back to what they have been majority of the season, and I think it's going to be a really good game of football. I'm very much excited for it. So,
question: who does a draw benefit most?
I think Arsenal.
Arsenal.
I think so.
I actually think City.
Why City?
Because I think away from home, if they come away with it without a loss, and they know now they're within 3 points of Man City, they're with Arsenal, they got them to the Etihad to come, and also Arsenal faltering a bit. So if they can keep that Arsenal winless run ticking over, not come away with the Emirates without a victory, without a loss, and still within 3 points of Arsenal, I think it's advantage City.
You know what? You're probably right there, to be fair. You're probably right. The way you explained it, I mean, yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on, to be fair, because if that winless run, if that winless run does carry on for Arsenal, then the doubt is just going to the seed of doubt is going to keep growing and growing and growing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. So we're hoping for a Man City win or draw tomorrow night at the Emirates. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be in the stadium in the San Siro later on tonight. So watch out, for all the stuff going on there and all the content that we're going to be bringing you tonight. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.